Echoes of Empire, a channel that explores world history through dramatic storytelling. Welcome to Echoes of Empire. Welcome to a channel where history is unveiled not as a distant chronicle, but as a living tapestry of struggle, hope, and transformation. Here, each episode is a doorway to the past, crafted with cinematic care and reflective narration. Subscribe and journey with us through the shadowed alleys of time, discovering moments that still ripple into our world. As empires fade, their echoes remain, waiting for us to listen. Today, we tell the story behind the Austrian State Treaty of 1954. In the aftermath of World War II, Austria became a crossroads of power, hope, and tension. This tale matters, for it marks how a nation shattered by war found its way back to independence, and how the fate of a people can shift in the quiet negotiations of peace. Explore the legacy and lessons hidden within these historic Vienna streets. Chapter 1. Shadows over Vienna, or Vienna. In the spring of 1945, Vienna lay broken beneath the hush that followed war. Its Baroque streets, once lively with music and laughter, were now marked by ruins and watchful eyes. Everywhere, reminders of lost grandeur mingled with fresh scars. Crumbling facades, silence where concert halls once sang. 4 armies patrolled the city's heart. Each carried secrets, suspicion, and the heavy promise of a world divided. On every street corner, new borders replaced the old imperial order. Soviet soldiers marched through the east, while British, American, and French troops carved up the rest. Their banners fluttered above government buildings, their languages filled the markets. Yet beneath this uneasy truce, Viennese life struggled onward. Residents exchanged wary glances at checkpoints, clutching ration cards and memories of the capital they once knew, longing for reunion but uncertain of the dawn ahead. As dusk settled in, Vienna offered only shadows, stories half-whispered through broken windows. Children played among rubble, their laughter briefly defiant against the pall. Elderly survivors traced old maps, fingers drifting over lost districts, imagining what had been or what might come next. The city's soul, bruised yet unbowed, waited for a reckoning that would decide whether these streets would remain a battleground or regain their song amidst the complex peace to come. Chapter 2. Allies and Divide. Austria now finds itself balanced precariously between rival visions for Europe's future. The victors of war have gathered, each carving out a stake in what remains. American, British, French, and Soviet flags flutter over divided zones. A silent contest played out in meeting halls and on city streets. For ordinary Austrians, the presence of foreign uniforms becomes an inescapable part of daily life. Barbed wire and painted checkpoints carve Vienna into quadrants, each a world of its own. In the shadow of ruined buildings, soldiers stand watch with weary eyes. The city's heart now beats to the rhythm of foreign boots. Children peer through wire mesh, wondering who belongs here and who commands the future. For families, each movement and conversation might be weighed, scrutinized, even reported by unseen eyes. Memories of the Nazi regime linger in every shattered window and hushed conversation. Yet Austria is compelled to look forward, caught between the promise of Western freedom and the vigilance of Eastern control. Bureaucratic obstacles arise in simple things. Mail between zones, jobs, papers. The past is not easily shed. Suspicion lives on in passports stamped in barriers that separate friends and families, as East and West each claim a piece of the present. Foreign soldiers meet in faded cafes and on rain-slicked boulevards. Their languages shape the city's soundscape, their alliances shifting quietly behind closed doors. Meanwhile, diplomats negotiate over the fate of an entire nation, seeking a balance that neither side fully trusts. For Austrians, freedom and dignity now feel conditional, dependent on distant capitals and shifting tectonics no one here can control. The future seems written somewhere outside these borders. And yet, beneath watchtowers and dividing lines, a stubborn sense of identity survives. Neighbours share quiet glances, a silent resolve to outlast the politics of occupation. Austria's spirit, tested by war, now tempered by division, begins to yearn for unity once more. As Cold War ice thickens beyond its borders, a question lingers in the fog. How long will this land remain a chessboard, and when will Austrians decide their own fate again? Chapter 3. The Price of Liberation. In the raw silence following liberation, Austria's cities lie mottled with scars. Buildings standing as hollow shells beside new mounds of brick and dust. Across Vienna and beyond, the rhythm of daily life returns hesitantly, shaped by ration cards and the relentless presence of foreign soldiers. Amid this uncertainty, every breadline and whispered conversation carries the aches of survival and the fragile promise that normal days might someday return. Lines of hungry faces wind through streets shadowed by occupation. In bakeries, flour is precious, and every loaf must stretch to feed many. Still, the spirit of the people flickers quietly. Or Andesay. Children push makeshift toys through alleys. Elders trade memories for news. With past loyalties under scrutiny, some Austrians face bitter retribution. Yet even in tension, a yearning for forgiveness and restoration pulses beneath the hardship, fueling cautious steps toward rebuilding what was lost. In kitchens and courtyard gatherings, stories of lost sons and vanished neighbours fill the air, blending sorrow and resilience. Parents reassure children that peace means new beginnings, even as old alliances remain unspoken. Official decrees struggle to reach every village, while rumours ripple quickly, fanned by foreign broadcasts and hushed confidences. Austria finds itself tiptoeing between past betrayals and future hopes, each citizen navigating recovery along silent battle lines left by the war. The watchful eyes of occupying troops remain ever present. Soviet, American, British, and French tanks paint stark lines across a divided nation. Yet beneath this uneasy coexistence, an undercurrent of national identity begins to reawaken. People gather for music at dusk, song threaded with nostalgia for the world that was, and a cautious faith in what might be. The shared hardships of the post-war years quietly sow seeds of unity, hinting at the possibility of sovereignty restored. As the rubble clears and reconstruction gathers pace, optimism intertwines with quiet exhaustion. Every brick laid, every new shop opened, becomes a testament to resilience. The memory of wartime loss lingers, shaping cautious optimism into something deeper. A stubborn will to reclaim Austrian life, even if forever changed. With each sunrise, hope grows in small acts, a smile exchanged, a violin played, a child's laughter rising above, lingering echoes of conflict. Liberation, they learn, comes at a price. And with new beginnings. And with Chapter 4. The Cold Resolve. In the spring shadows of 1950s, Vienna, Austria found itself standing at a dangerous crossroads. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union had hardened into silent, cold hostility. Each side-eyed the other warily, suspicion thick in the air as Austria's fate hung uncertain. The city, beautiful yet wounded, threatened to become the next Berlin. Divided, occupied, and forever changed by rival ambitions. Within Vienna's grand cafes and dim alleys, the true tone of the Cold War sounded. Secret exchanges took place behind the clinking of coffee cups, while foreign agents slipped like shadows between the opera houses and railway stations. Diplomats and spies mingled under chandeliers and faulty streetlights, mapping out alliances or betrayals in hurried whispers. Austria's neutrality was both a shield and a temptation, inviting struggles beneath the surface. For Austria's leaders, every diplomatic step resembled a tightrope walk over a chasm. The memory of Berlin's sudden partition haunted their negotiations. The spectre of a split homeland loomed. Chancellor Julius Raab and his advisers laboured to ensure the nation's unity, reaching out to both East and West without committing to either. They believed that compromise, not confrontation, offered Austria the best hope of survival. Meanwhile, the people of Vienna felt the squeeze of superpower rivalry in everyday life. Barbed wire and foreign checkpoints served as constant reminders of vulnerability. Neighbourhoods shifted loyalties, conversations turned wary and coded. In university lecture halls and busy marketplaces, uncertainty cast its own kind of chill. Yet, the resilience of Austrian culture persisted, shaping identity even as outside forces jockeyed for dominance. Amid this climate, the fate of Austria teetered between division and independence. Would Vienna remain a crossroads or become a battlefield for ideologies? As negotiations dragged on, the courage to remain neutral, neither pro-West nor pro-East, grew vital to the Austrian psyche. The struggle to keep Austria whole foretold not just a political battle, but a moral stand with consequences felt far beyond its borders. Chapter 5. Seeds of Sovereignty. Will. In Vienna's ornate chambers, the echo of pens scratching across paper blends with hushed debate. Austrian leaders assemble, cloaked in both anticipation and unease, as they weigh the monumental prospect of renewed independence. With every word shaped, they try to balance national pride and international restraint, acutely aware that these fragile discussions could alter the fate of a divided nation still under watchful foreign eyes. Behind thick doors, constitutional questions take shape. How would a sovereign Austria define itself, and who would be tasked with writing its story? Even as hope flickers in midnight conversations, caution lingers like a shadow. Leaders recall failed attempts and foreign intervention, the memory of Vienna under 4 flags. Every proposition, each amendment, a new task, carries the weight of both aspiration and the risk of disturbing prevailing powers beyond their borders. The air in these chambers grows dense with both optimism and restraint. Ministers exchange urgent whispers, voices quivering with the enormity of their responsibilities. As each legal clause is drafted, the authors can almost sense the gaze of international envoys lurking just outside, ready to scrutinize every word. Yet amid this tension, a quiet determination emerges. The resolve to shape a future free from occupation, rooted in careful negotiation and Austrian ideals. Meanwhile, word of these secretive efforts drifts through diplomatic channels. International negotiations stir, their beginnings marked by uncertainty. The Allies, Soviets, Americans, British and French, all harbour their own motives, each measuring concessions against the shifting chessboard of the early Cold War. Austrian envoys tread carefully, feeling exposed under the suspicious eyes of both occupying forces and a world sceptical of truly neutral ground taking root behind the Iron Curtain. In the midst of this diplomatic web, hope and anxiety intertwine. The Austrians quietly debate the promises and perils of neutrality. Could their homeland truly claim sovereignty in a polarized Europe? As sunlight creeps through tall windows onto stacks of draft documents, these early seeds, nurtured by vision and prudence, offer the first delicate promise of freedom, each decision inching Austria closer to reclaiming its place among independent nations. Chapter 6. The Moscow Memorandum. Du Ness Tel to Night to 8. The bitter divisions of post-war Europe linger, yet in 1949 Austria dares to hope. Years of uncertainty have left the nation's fate precarious, but subtle diplomatic overtures begin to ripple through Vienna. Pragmatic voices urge dialogue, believing perhaps the only way forward lies through the heart of Moscow. Quiet preparations begin, setting the stage for a daring diplomatic mission on which the country's destiny may depend. Early spring 1950, Austrian leaders, carrying both apprehension and resolve, board trains bound for Moscow. The world watches closely, knowing that the shadow of Soviet power looms large over this journey, and Darty, the power, putable. Within the high-walled Kremlin, tense anticipation builds as diplomats and statesmen gather, each aware that the outcome could redefine Austria's existence on the Cold War chessboard. Negotiations are shrouded in secrecy, with hope and fear intertwined. Inside dimly lit negotiation rooms, words become weapons and shields. Austrian envoys present their case with respectful caution, aware that every phrase is weighed by men seasoned in the arts of power. The Soviets are guarded, their scepticism evident, but also curiosity. And what guarantees can Austria offer to ease their fears of resurgent threats from the West? Each hour passes slowly, with silence almost as eloquent as speech, crafting an atmosphere thick with consequence. Breakthrough comes neither swiftly nor easily. After days of diplomatic sparring, a fragile accord begins to emerge. The Soviets hint at a dramatic concession, the possibility of supporting Austria's permanent neutrality. Yet their agreement is not given lightly. They seek ironclad assurances. There is May, and Nien has promises that the newly free Austria will never host foreign troops or military alliances. For the exhausted negotiators, hope and anxiety wage a silent battle in every handshake and carefully chosen word. As the delegation prepares to depart Moscow, the significance of their work settles upon them. Austria stands at the threshold of a new era, its future now dependent on the wisdom of their compromise and the durability of Moscow's word. Though much remains uncertain, that spring in 1955 marks a pivotal moment. The promise of neutrality, born from delicate diplomacy and hardship, is almost within reach. Echoing the perseverance of a nation determined to emerge from history's storm. Chapter 7. The Vienna Negotiations. In the heart of Vienna, history breathes through gilded corridors where the four occupying powers gather. The echoes of ancient empires seem to linger beneath the towering chandeliers as diplomats assemble with documents in hand. Each entrance, every cautious handshake, bears silent testimony to years of strife and division. Now, the world's gaze is fixed on these halls, where the question of Austria's future hangs in delicate balance. The negotiations begin with ceremony, but settle quickly into tense deliberation. Representatives of the United States, the Soviet Union, Britain and France occupy their appointed seats, eyes meeting with wary resolve. Every article of the proposed treaty is pored over, each word dissected, as translators murmur softly along the marble walls. Suspicion flares beneath the surface, yet the overriding hope remains clear, to finally unshackle Austria from its post-war chains. Behind closed doors, voices rise and fall. The debates revealing not just legal quibbles, but national anxieties and ancient rivalries. The fate of Vienna as a crossroads. East meeting West. becomes tangible in every phrase uttered. What might seem minor on parchment becomes monumental with meaning, neutrality, occupation rights, the future of foreign troops. Each clause is weighed, every compromise haunted by history's shadow and the new realities of the Cold War. Decisive moments unfold beneath chandeliers that have witnessed centuries of imperial intrigue. Arguments quiet into silences where pens hover above paper, the outcomes uncertain. Gradually, the language of division gives way to the vocabulary of resolution. Compromises are reached, some bitter, others received with visible relief. The architecture of the agreement slowly emerges. A mosaic of diplomatic intent, caution, and perseverance shaped by the pressures of the present and the lessons of the past. As dawn approaches, exhaustion lines the faces of negotiators. Yet, beneath fatigue lies a quiet pride. A sense that something extraordinary is unfolding. Outside, Vienna waits, poised between hope and memory. Inside, signatures are prepared, and the distant toll of cathedral bells signals a turning point. The Vienna negotiations. Their challenges, their suspicions, their fragile unity, become not just a chapter for Austria, but a symbol of what international resolve can achieve in the shadow of empire. Chapter 8. A treaty forged. May 15th, 1954. Within the grand halls of Vienna's Belvedere Palace, history holds its breath. 4 occupying powers. Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and the United States stand together, joined by Austria's own statesmen, their pens poised above parchment. The long shadow of war lingers, but in this stillness, the possibility of peace takes shape. Outside, a restless city waits for destiny to be written anew. One by one, the signatures appear, inked with the weight of 10 bitter post-war years. Each flourish commits the signatories to the Austrian State Treaty, a document both solemn and electric with hope. For Austria, this is a revival, a restoration of sovereignty that had been suspended since 1938. In the silence that follows, a new future emerges quietly, trembling at the edge of possibility for a nation held too long in limbo. Beyond the gilded windows, thousands have gathered. Their collective sighs mix with anxious murmurs and tentative laughter, caught between the memory of foreign occupation and the thrill of self-determination. Some clutch small Austrian flags, their reds and whites bright against grey spring skies. Word spreads quickly. A signature, then another. Each name is a promise that the foreign soldiers and barbed wire will soon recede from daily life, letting Austria breathe free. Inside, emotions waver between relief and disbelief. Foreign ministers exchange measured glances, aware that this treaty marks not only Austria's emancipation, but also the fragile balancing act of a continent divided by the Cold War. The words sealed on parchment are more than a legal transaction. They are a bet on peace, neutrality, and the possibility that old antagonists might let one nation stand apart as a bridge, not a battlefield, in Europe's anxious heart. As the ink dries, the doors of the palace swing open. Jubilant crowds can scarcely contain their joy. Bells ring out across Vienna, echoing above the city's roofs. For the first time in 17 years, the Austrian people glimpse a dawn unclouded by occupation. The nation is reborn, but Calais as reborn, as independent, neutral, and free. Its destiny finally shaped by her own hand. The significance of this day will echo through generations, etched into Austria's soul. Chapter 9. Streets of Celebration. The news spreads on a summer breeze through Austria's capital. Church bells echo jubilantly over the rooftops of Vienna as the message moves from paper to whispers, from corners to grand boulevards. Flags unfurl from apartment windows, and children dart about with ribbons streaming behind them, their laughter joining the swelling chorus. Hope, dormant for so long, blooms in the hearts of every onlooker. Families pour onto the Ringstrasse, weaving among jubilant crowds. Strangers embrace, united by relief and elation. Some stand motionless, eyes lifted skyward, mouths trembling with disbelief. Others cannot hold back tears. Each drop speaks of years spent captive to uncertainty. Beneath the flutter of banners, stories from the war years are retold, mingling heartache with the promise of a new future. The city exhales, wounds easing at last. Processions wind through ancient streets once marked by tanks and silence, now thrumming with music. Brass bands strike up folk tunes, their melodies wrapping warmly around columns and statues. Vendors hand out flowers to passers-by, a poppy tucked behind an ear, a carnation clasped in a child's hand. A great sense of unity washes over Vienna. The collective heartbeat of a nation restored to freedom in the shadow of immense trials. Throughout the day, celebrations ripple outward. From urban squares to quiet villages, binding Austrians in a tapestry of shared relief. Old men recall their youth before occupation, recounting tales over glasses raised high. Women in traditional dress dance beside students carrying banners of peace. The city's wounds are acknowledged, its resilience honoured in every clinking bell and waving flag, as the taste of sovereignty returns with each breath of liberated air. As twilight deepens, the joy endures. Candles are lit in windowsills, casting a gentle glow onto cobblestones. The treaty has not only secured Austria's independence, but also rekindled hope across generations. The echoes of war fade, replaced by laughter and music that drift late into the night. In these streets of celebration, Austria claims once more its voice, its dignity, and the possibility of peace uninterrupted at the heart of Europe. Chapter 10. The Spirit of Neutrality, or Fixes or An to. In the spring of 1955, as the ink dried on the Austrian State Treaty, Vienna stood at a crossroads of history. Politicians and citizens alike felt the weight and wonder of a nation reborn. For the first time in a decade, Austria claimed its voice. Not as a battleground, but as a bridge. Promise of neutrality echoed in Parliament and Plaza, reverberating through old palaces and modern hearts. On October 26, 1955, Austria boldly declared itself eternally neutral. This declaration was more than a diplomatic gesture. It was a profound commitment. The world, divided sharply between East and West, watched as Austria charted its unique path. The pledge was clear: never to join military alliances, never to permit foreign troops on its soil. It was a vow spoken softly, yet carried with enduring conviction. Austria's newfound neutrality seemed both a shield and a beacon. Surrounded by ideological rivalries, neutrality offered security and hope. Streets bustled with quiet optimism as Austrians looked forward to the freedom of setting their own course, neither Soviet satellite nor Western pawn. Diplomats praised Austria's courage, while artists and thinkers revelled in the creative breath of unburdened independence, shaping a fresh identity for the nation. The Declaration of Neutrality transformed Austria's role on the world stage. No longer a prize to be claimed, Austria became a platform for dialogue, a host for diplomacy, and a crossroad where East could meet West in relative peace. International organisations found a new home in Vienna, drawn by its firm stance. The neutrality law became an inspiration, proof that sovereignty could be reimagined amid the Cold War's relentless suspense. Yet neutrality was not without complexity. Balancing openness with caution, Austria navigated pressures from both superpowers. Its promise of non-alignment needed vigilance and continual reaffirmation, but in classrooms and cafes there was a sense of relief. A tangible, poignant liberation. As night fell on a free Vienna, the spirit of neutrality offered hope, a lasting dream that independence and peace could endure, even in uncertain times. Chapter 11. International Reverberations. Across the globe, the Austrian State Treaty echoed in chambers of power and on city streets. Neutral states applauded. A rare triumph for diplomacy amid a world shadowed by iron curtains and silent fears. In distant capitals, leaders studied Austria's new neutrality, weighing its significance not just for Vienna, but for the precarious balance of Europe. Hope flickered, even as caution settled among old adversaries. Applause from neutral countries carried a special resonance. For Switzerland and Sweden, Austria's newfound independence was both a vindication and an inspiration. Their leaders sent quiet congratulations, celebrating a rare moment where dialogue triumphed over discord. The treaty's signatures signalled a cautious optimism, a belief that the machinery of history, so often driven by conflict, could yet be steered by restraint and compromise. Yet, among the superpowers, the mood was anything but serene. In Washington and Moscow, diplomats scanned the fine print for hidden risks, mindful that even the smallest precedent could ripple across the continent. Was Austrian neutrality a stable anchor or a brittle illusion? As Austria unfurled its new identity, old suspicions lingered. The landscape of Europe was still fractured, peace as delicate as glass. Austria itself became a living symbol. Newsreels showed jubilant crowds in Vienna, yet behind the celebration there were anxious calculations. Could neutrality withstand the pressures of Soviet and Western scrutiny? Austrian leaders walked a narrow path, eager to embody hope, but ever aware that a single misstep might reignite the fires of occupation. Their challenge was not simply to keep peace, but to redefine what being Austrian truly meant. Diplomats across Europe watched as Austria charted its course in uncertain waters. Embassies sent urgent cables, analysing the experiment unfolding in real time. Each decision, each public statement, was weighed for broader consequences. For a continent still bearing the scars of war, Austria's journey was both a lesson and a test. Could a country, once divided, truly become a bridge between worlds, or would old tensions once again draw lines in the sand? Chapter 12. Echoes of Freedom. As the echoes of war faded from Alpine valleys, Austria found herself quietly rebuilding. In humble classrooms, children practiced lessons beneath bright new windows. Desks, once absent, stood again, symbols of learning and hope. Outside, the rhythm of hammers and laughter mingled in towns restored by careful hands. Amid this peaceful renewal, the Austrian flag fluttered anew over schoolyards and rooftops, a gentle promise of lasting peace for a generation yearning to begin again. Farmers across the countryside turned the dark, churned earth with steady resolve. The land, scarred by years of conflict, responded. Grains sprouting beneath pale spring skies. Fields that once hid trenches and sorrow now swelled with life, echoing the quiet victory of daily bread. Here, unity was measured not in parades or proclamations, but in each careful seed sown. Austria's farmers stitched peace into the soil, binding wounds with wheat and offering a quiet faith in tomorrow. Children gathered around radios in the evening hush, listening as the news of independence was softly read. Mothers folded linens, fathers polished boots, chores now as peaceful rituals. No longer under distant commands, Austrians lived the ordinary moments that define true freedom. The streets were still, the past's chaos replaced by gentle routines. The air, once heavy with uncertainty, grew lighter as each citizen claimed a small yet profound ownership of their future. Austria's new neutrality settled gently, neither boastful nor weak. It was a clarity born from hardship, a promise to remain untouched by future conflict. The red-white-red flag billowed across city halls, but without the clangor of rival armies. At the negotiating table, the cost of this independence was understood by all. For Austrians, neutrality was not a retreat but a hard-won passage into a quieter century, a moral line inscribed on the heart of Europe itself. As twilight gathers on the 20th century, Austria stands dignified, a nation shaped by sorrow and renewal. Its enduring neutrality is not just absence from war, but the assertion of peace. An echo through cobblestone streets and mountain passes. In the silence that follows turmoil, Austria's story endures. A testament to rebuilding, remembering, and choosing freedom. Here, beneath calm skies, the legacy of 1955 endures. A gentle victory cherished in every quiet corner of the land. Thanks for watching Echoes of Empire. Hope to see you soon and explore more world history with us.